Hey gamers, I'm Moss, and I'm here to talk about defending against Gordeau in Undernight Inbirth. This video is aimed at newer players to intermediate level players who just don't have much experience against Gordeau. My aim is to give you the knowledge to deal with his most common and most important tools, his stagger pressure, his command grab 50/50s, and his longer range pressure with like 5C, 236C, and 22A. So to get started with, I'm going to assume that Gordeau has hit you and he's ended the combo in assimilation for a hard knockdown, which is the most likely outcome in any given combo he's doing. So he can put you in straight 50/50s after you wake up, but if you start stagger pressure, which is a pretty likely outcome at the beginning of a set, the most important moves to look out for are 5A, 5B, and 4B. These are the moves you're going to want to know to deal with, especially 5A and 5B. His 5A is a 6-frame standing low, it's -1 on block, and it's basically cancelable throughout the entire round. So when he does this, you cannot react to whether he's resetting pressure, going for a command grab, or going for a frame trap. His 5B is a 9-frame advancing mid. The thing you want to remember about this move is that it's even on block, so it's a very good button to reset pressure off of. Its stagger window isn't quite as good as his other buttons, but it's still quite good, and the button is still even on block. So this is also something where it's really hard to react to, and if you're a character without a 5-frame button, you are just not going to win if you mash after this. You're gonna trade at best, so I don't recommend trying to challenge 5B, definitely not at the beginning of the set. And 4B, it's a bit slower at 10 frames, and a bit more minus at -2. That's a move I'm probably going to use if I think you're pressing buttons. It's got a really nice stagger window, so although I don't want to end pressure strings with it, because it's more minus, I can definitely mix up between ending with that and ending with a 5B right after. And his command grab itself is 13 frames, it's slower if he microdashes into it, and it's fully thrown vulnerable, so I really do not recommend trying to throw Gordeau, even if you're Waldstein, even though there's a lot of gaps in his pressure, because his command grab is slower and it is invulnerable for longer than any throw you're going to be doing, so your throw will go right through him. And before I move on to the next bit, the most important bit of advice I can give you in terms of dealing with Gordeau's 50/50s and his stagger pressure is not to panic. Not to just start pressing buttons because you think a command grab might be coming. If you look closely, command grab only does 1200 damage, and if you hit a button and I counter hit you, I'm going to be dealing like 3 assimilations of damage. So if you watch top players play against Gordeau, you'll notice that they're willing to take throws, they're patient, because they know that the risk-reward is oriented such that doing command grab is the biggest risk, and it's also the least rewarding thing. Now obviously if command grab is going to kill you, challenge it, and if you know that a command grab is coming because you've observed the Gordeau's patterns, challenge it. But at the beginning of a set, you do not want to condition yourself for the Gordeau. You don't want to kill yourself being scared of command grab. Be patient and try to establish patterns before you just start mashing against the command throw. So to move on to the next section, I want to talk about his pressure with 22A. 22A is a 21-frame mid that's +7 on block, so it's quite slow but quite plus. And the most common setup into this is probably 6/6C 22A. This is a very important thing to know to deal with. I like to use this as a knowledge check against people I'm playing for the first time. There's a 5-frame gap between the 6/6C and the 22A always. So if you have a 5-frame button, you can just mash it, and it will work. I believe if you're a 6-frame character, you have to shield the 6/6C beforehand to make a wide enough gap, but you can definitely do that. This isn't like free, like he did 6/6C so you get to mash now. because you can cancel it into 236A, which will catch a button, because the gap is very small if it's there at all. So don't always do it, but it is a very important thing to know that you can do. He can also do, like, 6-6C late cancel 2-4A. I messed that up. He can do this such that you do not, like that. He can do this such that you do not get gold thrown, but that obviously means that you can mash against it. So that is something you probably won't see very often. His 236C is a move you'll need to know how to deal with. It is +5 on block. To repeat that, it is +5, so you really do not want to mash after this. You will get hit. Even if you have a 5-frame button, Gordeau doesn't, and you shield it, he'll still be +2. His thing will come out first. You just want to respect that the first time he does it, because Gordeau will probably not immediately go for a command grab the first time it happens. That's not something I see very much. And it's not something I do very much, because I'd rather establish that you have to respect this pressure first, but still, definitely don't mash against that. People have made videos on this. It's becoming more common knowledge, but if you shield the second hit of Grim Reaper and react to the Super Flash of 236C, you can interrupt it with an invulnerable move, and you will hit Gordeau, like this. So if you have any invulnerable options, even if it's just your super, that's something you want to look into. And lastly, before I go, I want to talk about his overheads. His 5C is slow at 30 frames, but he has full cancel options out of it, and 5C, 5A, regardless of whether the 5C was charged or not, is -2. So it can be risky to challenge because it's an 11-frame gap into B Reaper, which a lot of characters don't have an 11-frame option from this range. Even if you have something pretty fast, like if you're Phonon or Gordeau, it's still pretty dangerous to challenge. And his 6B is his other overhead. This is a command normal, so we can only cancel it into special moves. But unlike 6-6C, which has a gap, 6-6C 2-2A that is, 6B 2-2A is the most common cancel option, and there is a gap, but it's only big enough for you to get counter hit. Gordeau will get a combo off of it, so if you block 6B, I recommend just, like, blocking whatever comes after. But if you see 6B, do absolutely challenge it. It is quite slow, it's 27 frames, so if you see 6B, hit a button. That's my advice. So to recap, what we talked about was his stagger pressure, his important buttons such as 5A and 5B, and the philosophy that you should be more willing to take the grab than take a hit trying to avoid the grab. That's the -- thing you want to keep in mind. And also, you know, you can challenge 6-6C 2-2A, lab your options against 2-2A. This is more character specific, but definitely like lab options against redashes after 2-2A, because that's a situation where you can challenge because Gordeau's dash is quite slow, so you will want to know what your options are after you block a 2-2A if he wants to dash back in. So that's all. I might eventually make another one with like more advanced stuff dealing with Gordeau pressure, if I feel the need to. Thanks for watching. Hope I helped you in the Gordeau matchup. See you in bracket.